Hi, and welcome to Real Trail Talk. I am Donovan D'Souza from The Long Ways Better.
And I'm Mark Pybus from The Life of Pi. Welcome to episode 80, and a big apology for everyone listening in real time because I think it's been about 3 months since we last had an episode.
Yeah, we had, I guess, a few things happen. So, we both were supposed to go away in July, but in the end, only one of us went away. You went in August, but I had July, a holiday planned to Queensland. So I had my 5th attempt to go and do the Thorsby Trail thwarted by circumstance due to the Delta outbreak, meaning that we couldn't travel.
Yeah, and then I went to Exmouth, and then in a couple of weeks passed, and I was doing an end-to-end of the Munda Biddi, and we just decided that was it. We'd just have a really long break.
Yeah, it just wasn't, there was just no feasible way. I think we had like a very small window between the two things that you had on. And because our holiday was basically cancelled to Queensland, Alyssa and I did a Munda Biddi week that, again, it just ended up being like just too late for when you were going to be going for your Exmouth trip, and wasn't going to happen.
You're a bit of a grump as well when your trip got cancelled. And
I was
a bit bummed out.
Yeah, pretty bummed out, particularly because I've tried to do it so many times. It hurt that bit more. There were literal tears when we had to cancel that because, this is the 3rd time we've cancelled it and the 5th time we've wanted to do it, and it's bloody difficult to get a booking for that hike. So one day. But we have a new episode, and if you've clicked on the title, you probably know what it is. So we're doing Manjimup to Northcliffe on the Munda Biddi, and joining us is autumn end-to-ender Michelle Ryan from Feed the Hike and Walking 2x2 and everything else on the internet. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, and thank you for having me back, guys. Don, I don't think you're ever going to get to do that walk, I'm sorry to say.
I really hope that that's not the case. I think... When did we do that bucket list episode? Because I talked about that.
That was a long time ago.
3 years ago.
And I talked about it being like an achievable one. Bloody hell.
No, far from achievable right now. I've tried 2 years in a row to get to the Hyson, and I'm still not there. So maybe next year. Yeah, we can only hope.
I'm only ever thinking about stuff to do in WA until things are a lot clearer. Because even just trying to think about going interstate is just... It's not going to happen.
No, I don't think so. Not for a while. But you know what? We've got a really good state.
We do.
We are very fortunate. It's huge and it's quite diverse from the top to the bottom. Mm-hmm. So there's lots for us to do.
Yeah. And every month of the year, there's always a good spot to visit. So we're going to talk about the Munda Biddi, which is our 1,000 and something kilometre mountain biking trail. Now, Michelle, you did this south to north in, was it March or April this year?
Yeah, March, April. Yeah.
So this will be a bit of a mental gymnastics for you trying to figure out talking north to south here.
Yeah. So why did you not do it from the south? It was so good from the south.
It's the same reason I don't like walking the bib south to north is especially in the winter months, is you're staring into the sun a lot, and I hate that. And the photos look terrible, yeah. People argue with me, but if you take notice, it's not enjoyable.
Okay, yeah. I did the bib from south to north. It was almost exactly 4 years earlier, and I loved it.
Yeah. So Manjimup.
Yes.
What did you think of this town? Don's already given his opinion in the last episode.
Okay. I only pulled in there for a coffee. I've been to Manjimup a few times, but I'd only whizzed in there for a cup of coffee halfway through the day, and actually it was early morning, and then whizzed on out and kept going north. So I did not see a trail sign though. I've got a feeling there's people were standing on the side of the road blocking it as I was riding along, bitching to myself about no trail signs.
It's up the front of the train station, the old train station.
Yeah.
On the linear park bit.
Yeah, I think that's why there were people standing there. So I didn't stay in Manjimup for long. Just enough time to have a nice cup of coffee, and sat in the park, and then, off I went. So, but the ride in was lovely. I did enjoy the ride into Manjimup. Which for you was the ride out?
Indeed. So I enjoyed Manjimup. I've always been a bit prejudiced against it because it's, in my mind, associated with logging and dirt bikes, and they're not two of my favourite things. But the town itself is like, staying there is quite nice. There's a few cafes that are really good. The motel that we stayed at had a very good restaurant attached to it, even though it was a bit out of town, which Aaron did not enjoy that ride after we finished.
So you stayed in Manji?
Stayed in Manji at the Kingsley Motel, I think it is, yeah. But yeah, it has a lot going for it. It's the heart of the truffle area.
I was going to say, that's what I associate with Manjimup, you know. It's black culinary gold.
Yeah, and in the summer they've also got the cherries as well. It's
nice.
I think now that the ban on logging in native forests has come in, hopefully they'll look to diversify a lot more and really grow and expand into a fantastic trail town.
Yeah.
So leaving Manjimup.
Before you leave Manjimup, if you're looking to collect the 5 kings, there's a short side trip that you can do here. And, you know, like I've said this to you before, that I kind of see... You know, the town to town or town to campsite days are quite achievable, and I think there's 2 options you can have there if you find it achievable, is that you can either double or you can add things as side trips that you could go have a look at. And there is a King Jarrah that's just a short way out of town, and there is actually a cycle path that goes all the way to the King Jarrah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's something that's just to the north of, like, where the Munda Biddi goes. If you kept it going up a little bit past through town, there's a road that goes up to the King Jarrah.
Oh,
and
right.
Yeah, so that was one of the kings that you can collect along the way. One of the 2 King Jarrahs. There's 2 King Jarrahs, 2 King Carries, and 1 King Tingle along the way.
I did think about doing it, but that was meant to be a pretty bad day for weather. I was like, I don't want to add another 10Ks or whatever it was just to collect that one king. So that's where my streak ended.
Fair enough.
And this was after stubbornly walking up that hill to go see the King Jarrah near Dwelling
Oh,
Up.
yeah.
I was like, this was not worth it.
But you got the other 4?
I got the one near Donley River.
Yep.
Where's the other one?
Valley of the Giants, the understory.
No, I didn't do that. I didn't do that walk. But I've done it before.
Yeah.
And we were there.
Yeah, fair enough.
So yeah, leaving town, I was actually quite surprised at this, is once you cross over the highway, you're immediately into like pretty nice Jarrah forest for a little stint before you then back into the suburbs. But that was quite a nice little bit of single track.
Yeah, when I did this the first time was September 2020, and the purple creeping hovia was everywhere, so it just looked gorgeous. Last time I did it, which was with Alyssa, we did the reverse. We went from Pemberton up to Manjimup. It was not quite as nice looking, but it was nice and lush, definitely, still, because it was winter.
Yeah. Because it's just weird, like, immediately after leaving town, it's forest, whereas sometimes you get the suburbs and then some patchy forest, and then you're finally into it. But this was quite nice, but then you do get into the back streets and by the school and then onto the highway.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy being on the highway, but I had my all plate on the back of my bike, on the back of Sid. So, yeah, that was all right. But I don't enjoy the highway, but those single trails were absolutely beautiful. And the countryside around there is just glorious. Very, very nice. And because I rode through there early in the morning, so it was quite a crisp morning and there was a lot of mist around. So it just really added the atmosphere. It was gorgeous.
I think it's actually worse the way that you came, because I've now having done the section front to back.
Yeah.
I can say that heading along the road, there's actually a bit of a shoulder if you're heading south.
Okay.
Whereas
north, I don't recall a shoulder.
There's like a gutter just right next to the road.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it's a bit nerve-wracking, especially when, you're not going as fast as some of those trucks.
Yeah, definitely.
And they come boring down behind you. But, yeah.
It is tempting because going north to south, you see the sign that says Mount Barker 150 k's away, and you're like, oh, that's then only 200 k's to Albany. But I wouldn't want to do that along the highway.
No.
But then you do turn into the state forest, which to me just looked like a plantation. The way they'd done it, I think they'd probably previously logged and then planted again. It was just all straight lines.
Yeah, it alternates between quite nice and clearly on like old rail forms and bits that are like not great with very obvious logging still going on.
Yes, they had that. There was a 6K diversion through there when I went through. And they were logging, so they were diverting you onto the highway to miss that section, which is a great shame because it is absolutely beautiful through there, in my opinion. I love those narrow trails that it actually goes on, and they were light rail trails. So
it's one of those things where for me I got annoyed, but then because you're on some nice single track that's an old rail form and it's quite easy but flowing, my anger would subside as soon as I got some nice riding in there.
yeah.
So, but I know that you said that you found this a little frustrating at
Yeah,
times.
because like the rail trail section was really nice, and we were kind of toing and froing with this one older guy who we'd catch up to, and then he'd overtake us over a few days, and I rode with him through there. It was really nice, and we had a bit of a chat, and then we got onto one of the vehicle tracks, and it was just like terrible. Like you could just see they'd piled up all the logs, they'd clear felled next to the road, and they'd left like one tree in there. I'm just like, I just was so angry that day because Manjimup is a logging town, and yes, people are employed, but it's not a money-making exercise. And now that they finally banned it, I think the penny's finally dropped that no, we shouldn't be logging native forest.
Yeah. And that's happened in the time since our last episode, really, because I actually sat my parents down and Alyssa, and we all did it to get that the survey through. The thing that annoys me about this, so Michelle, you went there and there was a diversion.
There was 6-kilometre diversion.
Is that they
because
then
of
go,
logging?
Is that they then go, it's now done. Here you go. This is fine, and that's not okay. Like they should think about what's the visual aspect to a rider coming through there, because yes, it's now you can return to the main trail, but if it's hideous, why? There's heaps of other vehicle tracks through the area. You can reroute the trail.
Yeah. Yeah. And definitely don't put you on the highway.
Yeah,
because there's quite a few, like we passed a few logging diversions along the trail, and it's like, well, is this just a showcase of all the great forests, but oh sorry, we're gonna have to log them now? Like there's no like even attempt at creating a corridor of trees just to have the illusion that we're riding through kind of nice forest.
I have to say though, a lot of the logging diversions that I came across were not actually active. They were old diversions that hadn't been taken down. I'm not sure who's responsible for that. But I found that very frustrating because you'd be then diverted onto a horrible corrugated dirt road or like that one, the main highway, rather than go through something that obviously isn't being used at the moment, but nobody's taken the sign down. So I found that, a lot of the time those diversions weren't actually active.
Past the logging area and everything, there's a lot of road riding, but then you turn off onto some quieter roads and then head towards the Warren River catchment area.
Well, I mean, there's that section that's really outstanding, which is all like, it's almost like a cross-country single track section.
Yes.
That's lovely. And Alyssa says, what would you call this? And I said this is sort of like an XC trail. And she's like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah. I really got to love those single tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I was having most of my fun.
I actually skipped this section.
Oh, did you?
Oh, no.
Because I was on one of the roads and I was waiting for a car to pass, and then the guy actually stopped, and he owned the farm that you come up to the edge of.
Yep.
And we had a bit of a chat, and Aaron was off ahead. So I went through some of the single trail, and I got to the edge of the farm, and I was taking all these photos, and I just figured the trail went down the edge of the farm. And it was really nice, and I kind of got carried away a bit, but it just goes diagonally. So I got to the bottom and I turned left and I hadn't seen a trail marker for ages. So I got the map and I was getting attacked by mosquitoes and I just went to the end and then Aaron's waiting. He's like, where the hell were you? And he said, that was beautiful single trail. I was like, oh, damn it. Yeah. I mean, it was nice. It's just when it's that up and down and flowing, you can't see too far ahead. You're just kind of like tootling along. I love that kind of riding on the Munda Biddi.
Yeah. I think what's really good about that section is that while it is quite twisty, it's not so twisty that you're going to have to hit the brakes all the time to take those corners. So it feels fun without feeling, like super, super technical and laborious.
Yeah, I think that's where people who complain that there's not enough single trail on the Munda Biddi, that's what they want, not necessarily like technical single trail.
Yeah.
It's just more about that immersion in the forest without being on vehicle tracks too long.
But I feel like those things are coming. I feel like the attitude that the the foundation have is to try and make the ride better. Like, I think there's both an understanding that, I've said this before about the world class thing that the Bibbulmun, Munda Biddi, all the they always love to push the world class aspect. But I feel like there is a view that they go, well, it's a really good trail, but it could be even better. And so a lot of the stuff that they are doing is to improve the trail, put in more of the single track that is fun, but not so difficult and technical that you can't do it. But then take you off really crappy roads or hills that are not necessary.
So it's a trail that's evolving.
Yeah.
Which is great. Yeah.
Because, yes, I mean, unlike when you're hiking, like if a hill gets pretty steep, you can kind of cop that. But on a bike, if it gets over like 10% gradient, it becomes really difficult to ride unless you're in your lowest gear and just kind of just plowing along. And then it's no faster if you just get off and walk. So I like when they put in the switchbacks. It's harder, but it's also easier at the same time.
Yeah. I find if I've got to get off and walk, I'm quite happy to do that. Especially because my bike was only in second gear constantly. I couldn't get it out of second gear.
No.
So it ended up, when I got to those hills, it became a competition to myself, a little game. Like, how far can I push myself up that hill before it will not go any further? And, I'd go as far as I could and then I'd have to walk. And then I'd be walking and I'd forget to get back on the bike because I was too busy enjoying the walk. And then I realised that, hang on a minute, I'm pushing a bike here. I can actually ride. So... So this went on constantly throughout the whole ride.
I had the same thing. I lost my lowest two climbing gears. Like, I don't know, maybe... Actually, it was the first day. Like, one of them was just... It would just clink and then get out of gear and go into one gear. And like,
I remember that.
Got to a certain point where it's just like, all right, I'm not getting out of third gear. I'll just ride as fast as I can up this hill until it's just like, no, I need to take a photo of something as an excuse. Yeah, it is kind of tough when you have those mechanical issues that force you off the bike at certain points.
Yeah, but early on in the piece, I decided, you know what? Don't worry about it. Just go on with it and take it as it comes. Yeah. Otherwise, I just would have got very upset and wouldn't have wanted to be out there. Because I found by day 3, I was really frustrated. So I had to change my mental attitude on how I dealt with it. And thought, look, I can't do anything about it. I'll just keep moving and enjoy the ride for what it is.
So speaking of hills, there is the bit from the single trail then leading down to where you follow the Warren River for a little bit. And Michelle, for you, this would have been...
This was an up.
Yeah, a big up.
It was a big up. And it was actually a very warm day that day and quite still. There was no breeze. So, it was a bit nasty. In fact, I think I... mostly walked on that bit.
So I just remember it just being like, oh yeah, great downhill section. Looking forward to, I know the Warren River's there. I hope we get to see a good amount of it. And just really enjoying it. Then we got into the river. I was like, yes. And I thought about it. I was like, oh, that's not a fun hill to go back up.
No, it was not fun at all.
So for me, I guess I've done it downhill on an acoustic bike. And done it uphill on an electric bike, so it didn't matter.
That's not fair. You're just rubbing that in now.
He likes to do that.
He does.
Yeah, so I think, this section, I say one of the weaknesses of this day is how up and down it is. Sometimes seemingly unnecessarily so, but I don't know how you'd get around it, because there's probably, the issue is land use, that there's probably a flatter way to go,
Yeah.
but how do you get around what is existing farmland? Because this whole area is a lot of farmland.
It's a lot of farmland, so you've got a lot of fight between,
So,
where to put the trail.
I think it's okay for what it is. I think going south is now better because they've, later on we'll talk about a diversion that a permanent diversion that they've made coming into Quinninup. But even then, it's still a lot of up, down, up, down, up, down through this day, which can be a bit frustrating. But then, so can super flat track. Like, if you get no descents in a day and you're just going like flat all day for 50 Ks, that can also be a bit frustrating because you never get the time to break and go downhill.
I actually enjoyed going up and down. And you're right about the super flat track. It does get boring. You end up tuning out and you go into a total daydream. So, yeah, I think it makes you work for it and you enjoy it a lot more if you've got to push up and then you get to do the ride down, and that's so much fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind, because this area, naturally is quite hilly, but it was just like turning onto Wheatley Coast Road. I was like, if I follow this, it goes straight to Quinninup, and then you kind of turn left after the Warren River again. And I was just like, oh, what now? And I was like, oh, plantations. We're getting into the plantations.
But the Warren River bit's really lovely. Like, I both times I stopped and took a lot of photos through here because I thought it was quite spectacular. There's a lot of like Banksias growing along the river and
lots of moss on every bit of tree that it can find.
Yep.
Yeah, it is quite pretty, and you are quite close to it as well, which a lot of the rivers sometimes you don't get that view of.
Yep.
Was there much water when you went through? Because we had a lot of rain between my trip and your trip.
Yeah.
So you would have had a lot more water, whereas it wasn't quite so full when I went through.
The rivers, almost every river was as full as I've ever seen it, doing the Bib or the Munda Biddi. So, yeah, it was quite spectacular, but nothing like too out of the ordinary with puddles. I think we got quite a dream run going into when we started of like nice-ish weather.
Yeah.
But this day, I think there was storms forecast. So we were trying to push into Quinninup to get there before that hit, which was a bit of a race, but it's still a nice ride. And then once you get onto Wheatley Coast Road and cross the Warren River again on the road bridge, like I was looking and I could see that rail bridge just downstream, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, why don't we go on that? And then I went round the corner and actually found where it goes along the road. I was like, oh, that's why it's all broken.
Yeah. That's one of those things where it's such a shame that those rail bridges were left to rot, because they could have used that infrastructure for the Munda Biddi.
Yeah, they've done that on a lot of trails, rail trails around the world, and it's absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, you're right. It is a shame that we can't use that.
And it kind of makes me wonder, like, where's the rail trail around Quinninup? Because it may have just been swallowed up by plantation, but surely there was an easier way to get between the Warren River and Quinninup.
Probably through a farm or something.
Yeah, because then you hit those plantations, and there's something different, but they're also like just a bit unnatural.
Yeah, I don't enjoy the plantations at all. Yeah.
And it was kind of like, it just went on forever for me. And it's like, when are we actually going to turn on to a road that'll take us to Quinninup?
Yeah.
The first one that you see heading south, where the trees are quite large, is quite nice. Like, I don't mind if they're big pines, but when they're like just the crappy small ones, and they're barely taller than you, that's not fun to ride through.
Yeah.
You know what I hate? I hate that they're all in a perfect line and they're all I just hate that.
Yeah.
I want to mess it up. It's like someone with OCD has gone and lined them all up.
Yeah, it just has an unnatural appearance about it. And also, this is like some of the worst ups and downs of the day. So you're going uphill, but it's not like it's nice scenery.
Yeah, it's like I can see the top of that hill pedal, 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 pedal.
Yeah, I mean, there's that old house that's kind of cool. Which I think I'm sure every cyclist stops and goes and checks it out. But that's like the only respite you have from like quite unexciting riding that's just up and down through pine plantation that's clearly been harvested fairly recently.
Yeah.
This afternoon I was racing the showers coming in and I could see the dark skies and I was like, I'm not going to wait for Aaron. I'll just go up these hills as quickly as I can and down them, and then it just started to pour down. So luckily I was near the edge of the native forest, so I just kind of had a bit of a rest there. But after that I was just like, I'm just getting into Quinninup as quickly as I can.
Yeah.
And there's that the downhill when you hit the road again, and I was so cold and wet from stopping, and I was just like, oh, I need a hill right now.
So that descent wasn't like that the first time I did it. It was only about half as long. And what happened was the Munda Biddi turned right and then went down for no reason whatsoever and went up again, and it was just a slog. It was just painful to ride up that hill. When by the time that you would have done it, Michelle, it was actually fixed.
Okay.
So the other way was maybe a bit nicer because there was Karri Forest you rode through.
Yeah.
But there was a ridiculous descent and ascent for no reason.
Yeah.
Whereas now it just goes straight across to the top of the hill and then goes down the bitumen road, which is a much better experience.
Yeah. No, coming up that though, I just had lunch.
All the energy in you.
I stopped and had a hamburger and a beer and a cat nap. I was there for about an hour and a half, and then I hit the road. Oh my! Not a good move. No, not a good move. It was very hard because it was very warm, and as I said before, there was no breeze, and it was the second half of the day. So yeah, I was cursing that hill the whole way.
Alyssa and I did that on electric bikes.
Oh, I hate you.
But actually, I think it was more fun coming in because you go down the hill and it's just awesome.
If everyone could see, he's got this pot here with a spoon and he's stirring. Like a witch's cauldron.
But yeah, Quinninup, it's a nice town. It's more like a holiday town than it is an actual town.
Yeah, it's almost like...
There's not much to it at all.
It's smaller than Donnelly River, really.
It is. I will
tiny.
Hold my tongue here because someone had a go at me on one of my Quinninup hike posts because I said there's nothing here but a holiday village and something else. And they're like, well, there's a tavern and an eco park and this and that. And I was just like, okay, but there's not much here.
Yeah.
Well, I have to recommend the food. The burger at the tavern is amazing.
Yeah.
So
and they were very lovely people in there. Really nice.
Recently rebuilt because it did burn down in a fire in 2016 or 2015. So nice new building, always a fire going, beautiful spots.
Menu's interesting. Like they've got good stuff and they do it well.
Yeah.
I've had their seafood basket a few times and very much enjoyed it. Good wine selection, good beer selection. Can't really complain.
Yeah.
Considering it's the only place in town, it's great that there's a great only place in town.
Yeah. No, it was wonderful because they've got that really wide veranda too.
Yeah.
Because it was very hot. It was nice to sit on the wide veranda and have that icy cold beer and just rest. Yeah.
So that was the opposite. So we arrived and it started raining quite a lot. Aaron and I just sat by the fire for the afternoon because we were in quite early. And then I got to a point I was just like, I need to stretch my legs. Like I know I've cycled 40-something kilometres. So I went for a walk around the lake, which is actually a really nice walk. And I hadn't done it since 2015. And there's a lot of holiday homes around that lake. And it was, really enjoyable. I think if you've only doing a half day or a 40-kilometre day into Quinninup and you're staying there, definitely check out the Karri Lake Trail. It's just a shortish walk from the tavern.
And is that where you stayed the night?
We stayed at the Eco Park, which I wasn't quite keen on staying because I'd heard some bad stories about, shoddy accommodation and things not being clean. But apart from some very, very soft mattresses, it was It was fine for what you paid for it.
Yeah, I agree, because we stayed there and I heard people say it was terrible, but except for the fact that the beds are like wormholes into another world, like you really sink into them. They were comfortable beds, like they're just the springs need to be resprung, and seriously, if you're staying in a campsite, it would be more rustic than that.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe the people who do that don't ever camp, maybe, because if you've had the choice between that or camping, that's luxury, and I say in inverted commas, compared to, sleeping in a shelter.
Yeah. I mean, it's comparable to the Donnelly River bunkhouse, except you have your own bathroom attached to the cabin. Yeah. And there's a bit more room to move about.
Yeah.
And you do actually get the kangaroos on the lawn at the eco resort too, or eco park. So it's kind of like a mini Donnelly River in some cases.
Yeah, so Alyssa and I really enjoyed it, and I think because the expectations were so low, it was like vastly exceeded when we were there. And it also, this is one of those points where it intersects with that Warren Blackwood,
stock route,
which is kind of cool that they've got this, it's. Quinnanup's not much, but it's a trail town with 2 major trails coming through it.
Yeah, and the creepy gnome garden bit. It's just weird.
Yeah, it's not like charming like Gnomesville. It's just like murder town.
And it's even weirder because Aaron and I had dinner at the tavern and then rode back in the rain.
Yeah.
With the lights on, and all of a sudden you turn a corner and there's these gnomes just like lined up.
I'm glad I didn't see that.
I'm gonna get murdered here. Yeah, it's a cool little town, Quinnannup, and we hadn't originally planned to stay there. I'd planned to double into Pemberton because of the weather and the distance. Aaron kind of twisted my arm and I relented, and we did this as 2 days and skipped our rest day in Pemby. So moving on, Quinnannup, then into Pemberton, another shortish day at about 40 kilometres.
I didn't mind this little strip.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it at all. It wasn't hard. It wasn't easy. It was just comfortable.
Yeah, it was a day.
It was a day, yeah. And of course it was quite misty in the morning when I went through near the farmlands and that was just beautiful with the sun beaming through the trees. And the forest was pretty. So I don't know what it was like when you went through, but for me it was quite pretty.
For me, this was a day that I was kind of dreading because of the weather. So it was like ridiculously cold. Like I think it got to 10 degrees max, and it hailed and there were showers. So leaving Quinnannup, we had a bit of sun, and then going through the Kincarry Trail. Mm-hmm. Is this another of the Kincarries as part of your 5?
Yes, it is.
Is it the trail? The walk trail is called the Kincarry Trail, but there's a few named carries
along the way,
which I think from people telling me, some of them may have fallen over in recent years.
Okay.
But that whole section was just like ride for a little bit, pick up the bike to go over a fallen tree or a fallen branch.
So I didn't have any of that when I went through. So obviously with the weather, it's brought a lot down.
So that's interesting because we did that in July, so it would have been only like a month before you, and there were no fallen trees through that section.
Yeah,
it was just a comfortable ride. Yeah.
Yeah, still enjoyable. And then, past the highway, we got our first shower of the day, so I kind of huddled under a carry. And they're really good for shelter.
There's a photo of like a Mary or a Jarrah that's fallen across the track, and that was there because I saw your photos or Aaron's photos, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that tree.
Yeah. There's one a bit further on from after you cross the highway that they've just I can see that they've gone to chop it down, and then they're like, no, we'll just make a trail around it.
Yeah.
Or like one tree has fallen over and they've tried to chop that, and then another one fell over in front of it, and they're just like, we'll just divert around. That's a bit easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, from Quinnannup, it's just nice forest. Like even driving through there, you just get the sense that the Karri Forest is quite wild, and it's just a nice national park to ride through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very pleasant riding for sure.
Like I feel there's bits through there where it goes through like regrowth Karri that's not great. And the first time I rode it, I don't know what it was, but I enjoyed it less.
Yeah.
But doing it the second time heading north, I didn't mind the regrowth carry as much.
Mm.
And I don't know what it was. It just maybe just the day was
Was it
just
the time of the year?
it was just perfect weather. It was July. The weather was it was the only sunny day we had our whole trip, and I just really enjoyed it. Whereas
Yeah, you were probably in a good mood.
in September when I did it, I don't know. I think because maybe I was kind of coming to the end of the trail, and it was just like maybe a bit sort of utilitarian. Like I just want to finish the trail. But when I did this again with Alyssa, it was a lovely day, perfect weather. It was the only sunny day we had the whole time. And also it was Alyssa's first day of this multi-day, so I wanted to make it a good day for her. So for that reason, I enjoyed it a bit more, but, you know.
Yeah, I found the plantation like feel like it hit me a bit hard because it seemed a bit uniform. There was just trees but nothing else. So I kind of was just wanting to get over that section. And then there was some logging further on that I kind of got annoyed at again. But then when you hit the farmland, and that kind of put a smile on my dial because there's forest to your left and then there's farmland to your right. And on top of one of the hills, it was like the Windows theme. There was just a tree, green grass, sunlight, and a bit of cloud. It looked quite nice.
And great just fast descents through the farmland, which is just awesome to ride.
Yeah, well, for me, slow ascent.
But there's enough of like both ways, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was actually. It was pretty even. Yeah.
And some of the nicest farmland, I think, on the whole trail as well. When you get
Very
to
pretty.
the lake, which I believe they hold boat races on during the warmer months.
Well, I was very tempted to stop and have coffee there. It's just beautiful. It was absolutely glorious, but it's obviously private property. They had a sign there saying no trespassing, unfortunately. But it's very tempting. I wanted to sit in that gazebo and just take it all in.
Yeah, it just does look so beautiful.
Oh,
you know,
it was gorgeous.
both times I've gone through, I was definitely tempted, but I didn't succumb.
Yeah, it would be quite nice because there's a lemon farm to your left. You have a nice lemon, maybe a gin and tonic at the gazebo.
Stop.
It'd be great.
That sounds awesome.
And then you hit the river, which is all on road, and then there's that nice bridge, and you've got like just beautiful farmland and greenery everywhere. It just feels like not really WA. Kind of feels like the Shire a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that.
Quite beautiful. Before you then start ascending and then rejoin the forest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that forest bit was quite nice. I enjoyed going through that. It felt young, though. The forest felt young.
I think because when you turn, is that the place where there's a sign saying regrowth forest from like 1980 something or 1990
could have
something?
been that spot.
Yeah, because I remember like I'm as old as these trees and looking up and being like, oh yeah, maybe in a few years I'll be that tall.
That was back. That was no. You're thinking of near Walpole.
Am I?
Yeah.
I might be. It's all one
because
big
I remember
jumble.
that. Yeah, I know. It gets like that. Each day
Actually,
merges into the next.
So you're right. Yeah, that's after
I think that
Swarbrick,
was
isn't
more.
it?
Yeah, because I remember that day because I saw a stag that day come out of the forest. So I remember that day. Yeah.
Okay. All right. But yeah, it is nice forest,
Yeah.
and you kind of hit like the rail trail type stuff. Maybe old logging tracks. It's kind of that half-hearted. It's not a vehicle track. It's not
I
single
think it's
track.
more logging tracks and rail trail.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy that section. It seemed a little overgrown, and you couldn't see the Karri forest that well. It just it was a bit that you just wanted to be over as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a difficult section. You could move through there quite fast.
Yeah, there would have been a lot of downhill, and then a lot of those hills where you can pick up quite a lot of speed and then carry that up into the next uphill.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too bad.
So I think I can.
Yeah.
Damn, didn't make it.
Yeah, got to pedal a little bit. But then you move on to down by Eastbrook, and that is a fantastic area. That's like what you imagine Karri Forest to be like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know both times through Eastbrook, we just end up spending a lot of time just enjoying it because it's so beautiful. The only problem was heading north the second time was we turned onto what was, you were saying, like either a tramway, a logging tramway or a logging road. there was this bit where 3 trees had fallen all at once.
Oh, no.
And so we had to lift the bikes, and, electric bikes are bloody heavy.
Oh, yeah, they
Loaded
are. They're
with-
cumbersome. Yeah.
Yep, loaded with, bike packing gear. Not the best. Luckily, Alyssa's got She-Hulk strength, and she lifted it over.
Oh, good for her.
But that was the only real major.
Yeah.
I think of all my trips that I've done, that was the only time I had, just a ridiculously massive tree that was a bit of a problem.
I didn't encounter too many blowdowns on my journey. I think a lot of that happened after, because we had a lot of bad stormy weather come through after.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate. I only had one day, I think, where I did have a lot of blowdowns. I think that was before Donnelly River.
Okay.
But otherwise, no, I was fortunate that I didn't have too many.
And that wasn't there when you were there.
No, we had a clear run through there.
Yeah, so clearly, I mean, that's good, because it means that
somebody's come out and cleared it up.
Yeah.
Because that's
That's really
the Donnelly district, isn't it? And they're quite good
Yeah.
at clearing things away. And you missed your opportunity to laugh at him for his e-bike disadvantage of being too heavy.
You got to pay some way or another, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no turbo mode when you're trying to push it over a giant tree.
No.
Well, you can't ever use turbo mode on the Munda Biddi. Like, you would just not make it very far.
No. That would be scary, especially going down a hill.
Because turbo mode will just chew through your battery. Like, you'd only get like 10 k's out of it.
Yeah. It's funny. I met a lot of people because I was going opposite way. I was not on a run with other people. So I was meeting people going opposite to me. And the most common question I got asked, did I have an e-bike? Was my bike an e-bike?
Really?
Yeah. I was quite fascinated that why anybody would even attempt to do it on an e-bike, because where would you plug in? But clearly you've done sections on an e-bike and you've managed to get through.
Yeah, so I mean, it really depends on how. So this middle section here, this whole section, this map is ideal for e-bikes because you're basically traveling town to town.
Town to town, yeah.
For longer sections, you probably need 2 batteries.
Yeah.
But 2 batteries will definitely get you there. But it really just depends on your riding style, because probably riding with Alyssa uses a bit more support.
She'll chew the batteries a bit more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it really just depends on what you're riding. Because I know it's been done quite a few times. I think the technology has really just caught up.
Yep.
In the last maybe 2 or 3 years, where it was feasible to do the Munda Biddi. Because I think 10 years ago, there's just no way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just wouldn't be able to do it.
No.
And that's going to, really open a lot of people to doing the trail.
So you can't plug into a Jarrah tree or something along the way?
Let's have a solar panel on the back.
I have seen some crazy, cycle tourists or bike packers who have a solar panel behind them. But, that's...
You have a trailer just for the solar panel.
Exactly. And the solar panel is as big as a car trailer.
Oh my God.
That's absurd.
If you pick your spots or your campsites right that are near rivers or streams, you put in one of those hydro mini hydro ones that you charge your phone with.
That's not a bad idea. You could do it in winter. That sounds like a feasible.
Yeah, there's a few along the river.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to Manjimup
Getting
and
sidetracked here,
Northcliffe.
guys.
So yeah, Eastbrook. It's just it puts into contrast that plantation style carry that it's not proper forest. When you see trees that are, twice as thick as what you are, just everywhere, it just kind of makes you appreciate that there's areas like this still left in the state.
Yeah.
And then, what do you climb up a little bit of a hill and then hit the road again to then head on to Golf Links Road, which is not the best way to get into town.
Yeah. It's I didn't enjoy the fact of having to go on a roundabout way just to cross over. But, there is a lot of farmland there, so I understand they're probably struggling at finding where could you put the trail.
Well, you could just take it along Eastbrook to the bottom of the switchbacks and maybe go a different way into town.
You mean take through the Gloucester National Park?
Yeah, so even if you've got a spur trail
and
leading
have it as
into
a spur
Penby,
trail, yeah, that would work actually.
but then I kind of think they wanted to take it near the mountain bike park in
Yeah,
that area.
I was going to say, I feel like the whole point of it is that it goes into the mountain bike park, and then
I just felt like we were going in a roundabout way, though. It felt like I was wrong. I was going the wrong way. Like I should be going over there, but I'm going around.
In both cases, I didn't mind it, I have to be honest. Heading into town, I like the fact that you can see town from the top.
Well, see, I was leaving, so I couldn't see nothing. It was behind me. So
For a listener nice leaving it again, like it's a quiet enough road that it's not bad, but a lot of potholes.
yes,
And that's not great.
No.
You're just constantly going
Yeah.
through the potholes.
but again, it was early morning for me. And yeah, that beautiful scenery of the trees with the mist and the light beaming through the trees that you get in the morning. That was lovely, and it was actually really cold that morning. But that area does get quite cold in the mornings.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it. Like, it's easy riding. There's a few hills, but they're not like too steep. I just wanted to get into town because we'd had like a pretty strong breeze, like a headwind we were going into. It was cold. It was raining. We got a few showers on this section. But I think it's worth it for then scooting the mountain bike park and coming in via Pemby Pools. Like,
Okay, yep.
It's a
Yeah.
special area, and it probably needs to be highlighted a bit more. And
Yeah. Because the Bibbulmun kind of goes by there, but it's not as much of a feature as it is on the Munda Biddi.
Yeah, because you come on the edge of it, whereas the Munda Biddi you go like through the forest and you can see it, and then you go along the edge of it, and you kind of appreciate it a bit more. Whereas the Bibbits is kind of like it's there if you want to see it, but it's not like a big feature.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then into town, and town's actually quite hilly depending on where you're staying.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I was staying up the top of the hill
Same with me.
because it was the only accommodation I could get. And my resupply was at the bottom of the hill at the general store.
Yeah.
And so, I rode down to get my resupply. It's late in the day, and I had to ride back up with my resupply to my accommodation. So, after going to the pub, of course,
Of course.
because I was down there anyway. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We stopped at the cafe after the visitor centre, an unsuccessful visitor centre, because there's no trail book there, which we found quite a lot on the Munda Biddi. Is each visitor centre just didn't know where it was, or it just didn't exist.
That's sad.
Yeah, because then that's how they get funding, is people sign the book and everything. It was quite an effort just to try and
Yeah.
get in and find it. But yeah, we were up the top
It
as
wasn't
well.
open when I went through.
Yeah. So because the time that we went through was when that guy had been murdered
Oh,
in
lovely.
town. It was a big scandal, and the woman we were staying with didn't really want to go out because she knew the townsfolk would want to talk about it all the time. So we
Yeah.
ordered pizza in, so we didn't have to go back down on our bikes and get meals and whatnot. But yeah, it was a bit weird because I was like, we're having breakfast the next morning. It's like, why is that guy in a suit in Pemberton? That's
Yeah.
not natural. And then Aaron's like, why do you think that guy's wearing a suit? Who would he work for? I was like, oh, he's a detective. Yeah, no, that was a big thing going along in town. I still think they haven't really solved. I think they found a body this week. But yeah, it's just an odd thing in a small country town of 600 people,
Yeah, it is weird. Yeah.
because everyone knows who it was and who did it. And it was just like, yeah, it was a bit of a shock. But I mean, Pemby, nice town.
Lovely town.
I always like Pemby.
Oh, yeah.
Pemby's always great. I've hiked into Pemby many a times, and hiked out of Pemby many a times. This was the first time I got to bike ride into Pemby. But yeah, I love Pemby, or I should say Pemberton for those who don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Pemby.
Yeah, I'm sad that Sophie Zalakar isn't there. I mean, you could probably go back to like the very start of this podcast, and I've always talked about how good
Yeah.
the restaurant was when it was there. But
It's Foragers, wasn't it?
Foragers, yeah. But I mean, the cafes are good.
Yeah.
The pub is great. So
I think they've really upped the ante through Pemberton the last few years. I think they've really made some improvements with the food,
yeah,
with the cafes and the restaurants. It's
maybe not quite as big a leap as Manjimup, because I feel like Manjimup went from like awful to fantastic.
fantastic. Yeah.
But yeah, you come into the pub and you get a good feed, and you can't really complain. And the cafes are good.
great. There's some nice ones. I can't remember the names of them, but there are some nice ones down on the strip.
The new one that's open, Wild at Heart, is
Very
really,
good.
really good.
I think that's the one I've had breakfast there many a time.
Yeah, and there's a pizza place that the same couple own, Sauce
That
Kitchen, which is the burger place.
Is amazing.
Yeah, so we had pizza that night because Sauce was closed. I was really looking forward to a burger from Sauce, but they were closed that night.
Yeah.
I was kind of bummed, but it's certainly upped its game a bit. And you've got Jasper's there, which is a bar as well as accommodation at the bottom of the street. So
there's plenty to choose for anybody that does go into Pemberton. And, it's a great place to resupply too.
Yeah.
There's, plenty there. You've got your supermarket. You've got the general store, which they've got some fantastic stuff in there. It's a good resupply town.
And good wine region as well. For those
If you're
who like
into wine.
Yeah, so the next day, Pemby to Northcliffe. This is probably the best day of this map.
Yeah, agree.
One that I've ridden twice, which is a bit unusual for
both the same
these
way.
spots. Both the same way. So one on my very old bike, unloaded, and then again on the end to end. So I knew what to expect. So I told Aaron, this is a really enjoyable day. Let's just slow down, and it's not a long day. It's 45 Ks.
I really love this section, and I love this section on the bib track too. The whole area is just beautiful.
Yeah.
It's very enjoyable, and I love it even when it's raining. Raining, sunshine, it's just gorgeous. It's a very lovely area.
Yeah.
This is a section that I think is, you'd be in the top 5 best days of the entire trail.
Yeah.
In terms of quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because leaving town, depends on where you are. You've got that big hill, and then you're into the Gloucester National Park with the tree, which was actually closed.
Was it really?
Right.
Why is that?
They were redoing the decking at the bottom.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
So unfortunately, I couldn't do it. Not that I probably would have, because it was cold and it was windy and wet that morning.
I did the photo at the base of the tree with the bike, but that's it. There was no way I was climbing up that thing.
Yeah, especially after the switchbacks that you would have had to have ridden.
Yeah. And you know what? I would have ridden at least 80% of that switchback and walked the rest. So I think I did pretty good in second gear.
It's quite manageable because the switchbacks
They're
here...
long switchbacks. They're not short.
That's right. They were specifically designed for mountain bikes. And I think because of that, they've made it an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, if you watch my YouTube video, I was swearing and cursing a little. I did cut that bit out of the video, but it just went on and on these switchbacks because they were very long. And I found, because I was coming up, not going down. If I was going down, I think it would have been one hell of a great ride. But going up, you were going along and then it dips down and then switches back and goes up. And then halfway along, you'd be going over humps, which made it even harder because you're going up. So I found that a bit frustrating because I really had to push.
I think it's definitely designed to be ridden down rather than up.
I think so. It's definitely a down ride than an up ride.
But the issue I had, I think both times, is you come to sections and a tree or a branch had fallen over and you really had to slam the brakes on and try and avoid that.
Yeah.
And I think the second time was really bad because you'd have actual trees come over. But I mean, being so close to town, I don't think that would have been the case for very long.
So can I say, I did this with my dad in early August. So we were down for the weekend for his birthday. And I said, we'll go out and do an electric bike ride. Going up on an electric bike, awesome. Absolutely amazing.
Stop stirring that pot. Oh, my God.
We had the most fun, I think, of the whole section that we did going up this switchback. It was so good because
I'm beginning to not like you very much.
Look, I think it's better than going downhill with the electric. And he really enjoyed it. He said, this is fantastic.
You know what? I got up to the top and I was so empowered. I just felt great because I made it, and then I knew there was a beer in town.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was hard work going up. Yeah.
But beautiful carry forest in
Oh,
that
I
area.
love that area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, because I was stopping quite a bit to take photos, and I was a bit annoyed because it was very sunny, and because it was like the forest was wet, you get all the reflections. I was like, well, these photos aren't going to turn out very well, but I was just like, just enjoy it. It's just nice forest. So you're not going to see too much of this all day, even though you do ride through quite a lot of nice forest. It's not this nice. So yeah, you really got to savor that section.
Yeah. No, absolutely beautiful.
And then get down to Eastbrook, and where the bib kind of goes off to the right and goes off to the Cascades, you head off to the left and up a little bit of a tree, and then join the rail trail there.
Yeah. And they're nice rail trails through there.
They are.
I did enjoy that. I enjoyed just cruising.
I remember when I rode with you last year in July that I was just like, this is my happy place the whole time.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
It felt like that. It feels like that
Yeah.
in that section.
because I'd forgotten about that bit, because I just remember going up that hill, and then I was at the Pemby Trail Fest. I was like, I just picture that one spot where you go up the hill, and I was like, oh, I don't remember. And then we kind of hit the rail trail. I was like, oh my God, I remember this. This is awesome. So I slowed down a heap, and it started to rain. So I was just kind of taking it really slow, and like lots of photos, and Aaron was way off ahead. And then I remember you getting really excited about one of the old landing platforms that had kind of disintegrated a little bit. So I was like looking out for that, and then I saw it. I was like, yes, there it is. And a heap of wildflowers through here. It was just good fun riding.
Of course, yeah, wildflower season for you. You would have seen a lot on your journey when it wasn't raining.
Not as many as I was expecting. I was probably like 2 or 3 weeks too early, but the carry forest isn't that great for wildflowers anyway, because it is so dense.
You get the orchids through there. Yeah. No?
No. So between Donnelly River and a bit south of Northcliffe was a bit of a barren spot for orchids. I think because we'd had a very wet winter and start to spring, the sunshine hadn't come out just yet.
Okay, fair enough.
So it was probably 2 or 3 weeks too early, but not to worry, it's still a great area.
You might have to go back again.
Maybe. It's a good. I think I might take my dad out there. It's a good day ride, that one.
Yeah.
And then you start hitting the hilly areas. So you join a couple of the vehicle tracks, and it's just pleasant riding through the forest. It's like middle of nowhere, just out enjoying the day.
I actually found that whole day, as you said, it's probably one of the most enjoyable days. I really, really enjoyed it. I felt good that whole day. It's
I think because a lot of it must be on rail trail. Because part of it as well is that while some of it is vehicle track, that vehicle track probably was rail trail before it became vehicle track. So you get nice gradients. You've got decent scenery because probably they logged it a long time ago and it's come back nicely. I remember there's like a photograph of you like pointing up at the tree.
I was looking out for that tree. I was like, has it fallen down? Like I don't remember that. And I came across it. I was like, yes, that's the big tree.
Yeah.
Stop right here. Because that's on the way to River Road Bridge.
Yeah.
And that big downhill into there, which would have been an uphill for you.
Yes. But don't you love crossing River Road Bridge?
Yeah. It
is
good.
It just, I remember when I came down and I saw the bib sign on my right, and then I turned onto the River Road Bridge. I remember that feeling of I'm at home. I love that area, and I love going across that bridge. And that was the first time I got to ride my bike across. Yeah, so that was nice. It's a long bridge.
Yeah. And great that it's it's one of those rail bridges that we're talking about how most of them have disintegrated, but this is one that's
they
maintain. It's still there. Yeah. And it's in pretty good nick for what it is.
And I got to walk across. I did that section of the bib a couple of months after, and I got to walk across it as well. And absolutely beautiful. But yes, then I had to climb uphill. That was a bit of a bugger.
Yeah. I remember actually stopping at River Road Bridge for quite a while because on the bib it was raining when I went through there, so I didn't really stop too much. And then we kind of had a little bit of a break, but not too much.
Yeah.
So this one, we both parked up our bikes at the end and just kind of like enjoyed the sunshine for a bit. And I went down to the river and actually shot it from below.
Was there much water? Because it was virtually dry when I went through.
There was a lot of water.
Wow.
So the four-wheel drive track that runs next to it, where you can see people
Yeah.
go in and out, there's like no way you get
Oh,
a vehicle
okay.
through
That was
there.
that was just muddy sandbank.
Yeah, this was like there was 2 or 3 different water courses over the
Wow.
bridge. So yeah, it's a very special spot. I
Don't you
enjoy it.
love that about trails? They change so much. It depending, you go any time of the year and it's always different
Yeah.
every time you go. So yeah, I'd love to go back when there's water actually going under the bridges.
And even year to year, like, earlier on in the trail at Nanup, the rail bridge across the river, Mark and I did that in 2020. Water levels were not crazy. That same trip where I went with my dad for the ride in Pemberton, we went to Nanup, water levels were insane.
Yeah.
Like you could not even see the bank. Like
Wow.
that bit where there's like a boat access was like mostly flooded, like getting down to it. So it really, even year to year, it can change so much.
Yeah.
And from River Road Bridge, I believe there's a climb.
Yeah, I remember there was a
Yeah, I
climb
came down on
towards the
that.
road.
Which I don't think it was too bad, because I remember I was going pretty slow, because I was like, if this is a longish climb, Aaron's probably going to be a bit behind me, so I just kind of like just go at a gentle pace, enjoy it, take some photos, and I just remember like really nice forest through there. I think I was even going slow enough that Aaron caught up and passed me at one point. Yeah, it
was a nice descent. Yeah, I didn't mind that at all.
That's the thing about the rivers is you're like, yes, there's a descent, but then also on the other side, I'm
that's
probably going to have to climb.
Yep.
And then it heads towards near where Schaefer Hut is, which I remember because I was really looking out for it, because we went the long way into Schaefer.
The long way's better, Mark.
It's not, because the short way we did it.
It
was
is
quite
way
pleasant.
better.
Yeah. So I decided that was going to be our lunch spot, so we had lunch there. But awkwardly, there was a bib hiker in the hut, and it seemed like they were sleeping, and I was kind of like, well, a bit quiet, and we went to the picnic table down by the water because we didn't want to disturb them. Later found out that was pack animal.
Oh, really? So I guess for those, who don't know, like Schaefer Hut is a Bibbleman track hut.
Yeah, it's one of my favourites.
It's got like a swimming hole by it. Near, it's near like some farmland, but it feels when you're there that it's quite remote and away from that.
Yeah, and the swimming hole is part of a dam that the farmer has, and he's sectioned off a part for the hikers to actually have a swim in.
Yeah.
So,
and it's only like
lovely.
a few hundred meters from the Munda Biddi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I was making sure I looked out for that, because there's I think it's called like Carry Hill or something, cottages that you can stay at.
Yeah.
So I was looking out for that sign, and took us into there. It's just a beautiful spot. And I really wanted to get some more photos, because my original ones, my camera was fogging up and they're not that great. So I'm happy I got those. But yeah, good lunch spot if you're on the Munda Biddi. You just got to watch out for where the bib track crosses.
Yeah.
If you hit farmland after all that forest, you've gone too far. But yeah, beautiful spot. And then, as I said, more farmland. There's the cottages you can stay at. There's a house. I believe there's doggos. I think I got barked out quite a bit.
The cottages look cool though.
Yeah.
They're kind of like almost like kit homes, like micro homes. Yeah.
Yeah, good option but it's just an awkward length, like unless you were coming from Quinninup to there, but then you're only like 10 k's out from Northcliffe.
Exactly, you might as well just keep going.
Yeah.
But I guess for walkers, it's not bad. You just go around the corner and you're...
Yeah.
I think a lot of bib hikers do get that little bit of luxury and stay there.
Yeah.
I've known many that have gone and stayed there rather than stay at Schaefer. I personally like Schaefer.
But Schaefer's a lovely hut.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I wouldn't pass that.
And then you head towards what is a different feel for this section. You move out of the forest and get into like the sandier sections where you've got a lot of paper barks and swampy areas.
Yeah. It feels like a bit of a prelude for what you see post Walpole, before Walpole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
just very, very thick sand in places where you just ride and then all of a sudden it's
You
just
come
like
to a screeching
Yeah.
halt.
Yeah.
like this looks like a downhill, but I'm going 6 kilometers an hour now,
Yeah.
digging quite a bit into the sand.
I did the same as I did with the hills, with the sand dune, the sand. I was going to ride as fast as I could and see how far into that sand pit I could get before I come to that screeching halt.
Yeah. No, it was fun because most of the time, or actually some of the time, Aaron was in front of me and I could see his tire marks. I was like,
So you just rode
I'll
those?
just go like the other side to see if that's a bit harder, and it wasn't.
No.
But yeah, when we did this through this section, there was just a lot of puddles. So some you could just kind of like scoot around, but the others you just like, I'm going to be riding in a puddle
I
for
did
50
see a
meters.
photo of you standing there, and I think I made a comment on the post about, so did you ride through the puddle?
Yeah, we rode through most of them. Aaron's got a good video of me just riding with this big smile on my face through one of them. But then like there's just a lot of mud through here as well if it's quite wet.
So it was very dry when I went through. Again, it was just lovely. Absolutely lovely.
Because there's a good section where you come, like there's just a clearing, but it's not really a clearing because it's just grass trees either side of the track. I just remember that from the first time we did it.
And the sand, it's quite sandy.
Yeah.
It's almost like somebody had bought a dump truck of sand through there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, like it was out of place.
Yeah, it's like they transplanted a section of the Pingarup Plains and
Yeah.
went, here you
Yeah,
go.
Yeah.
exactly. That's it. Yeah.
Have some white sand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then onto the road, which borders, or it's either side is farmland, and it's a bit of a relief after that sandy section just to get some nice smooth tarmac.
I've got a photo of you with like hands off the handlebars, just enjoying the freedom of the road.
Like, what is this? I can see a 2 in front of my speed.
Yeah, it's times like that where you go, I actually don't mind the road sections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The tarmac's not always that bad.
Especially if it's not a busy, busy
Yeah.
road.
And if you're not on it for a long period of time either.
Yeah, agree.
And this is quite flat as well. I mean, the only traffic you're going to see is maybe the occasional tourist or farmer, but it's quite safe, that road.
Yeah.
And the carries along there are like
Just
massive.
beautiful,
Yeah.
absolutely spectacular. It's like riding through a McCubbin painting. Just beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aaron didn't quite enjoy this section because I rode past one of the farms and I must have set off the dogs that live there, and he actually physically got chased away from the farm, and he said there's nothing like a bit of motivation to keep you going at speed.
I had one of the dogs sitting there watching me, so I gave him a really wide berth and then continued on. But he didn't, he was just sitting there watching me.
I was kind of wondering if I could hire them for the rest of the trip to chase her. Although that's a bit cruel. But it does end, and then you turn onto where the bib follows as well, and there's that very weird road where it's fantastic carry trees, but then you get to a point and the farmers just put tape across the road. And you're like,
I didn't see
like
that.
if you didn't know what you're meant to do, you're like, well, where am I meant to go?
Yeah. And the road is like tilled and like just awful.
Yeah, really
I
muddy.
know the section
Yeah.
that you're talking about
Just
now.
before the Gardner River.
Yeah, I actually tilted my bike under it
Yeah.
and managed to get it under. Yeah, because I didn't know if it was electric.
No,
it's
it's
not.
tape.
It's tape, yeah.
But not-
But sometimes in Europe, the tape is electric.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so I've zapped myself many a time on a hiking trail. So I'm looking at this going, I don't want to touch this. So I had to very carefully was trying to tilt my bike to go under and not get zapped at the same time and crawl under with my bike. I probably looked hilarious actually while doing it. This middle-aged woman trying to put her bike under without touching the tape.
I feel like the guy who owns it just doesn't like that people come through here.
Do you think it's just something to annoy us, or?
Yeah, I told
I
Aaron.
couldn't see the point in it because there was two that I had to
there
crawl
was two
under.
of them. I think because the way the tracks are, and it's so boggy that there must be a lot of cattle go through there a lot of the time. But I told Aaron, I was like, if you get to tape, just keep going. Don't think you have to turn left on the road. Just keep going through. And it was just, Like, it's a bit of a downer because there's no real markers there to say, actually, yeah, you need to go through. You have to venture past it, and then you're like, oh, there's a bib marker or a Munda Biddi marker.
I always have a rule, though, when you come to a section where you're not too sure and there's no sign, you keep going straight. If there's no turning sign, you go straight. It's more often than not, it is just straight ahead.
Yeah. And it does lead to one of the more beautiful sections on the day. I love that bridge going over the Gardner River.
Oh, gorgeous.
I just have very fond memories. And then there's that photo that you took of me, and I'm like standing up on my bike going over it. I was just like, yeah, that's I remember that as a really nice day.
Yeah. And the Carrier Forest from there basically all the way into town is quite nice through the forest park.
Let's see, you get to the hollow butt.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that because when I rode out, it was early in the morning and I saw the hollow butt and I thought, I wonder if you're allowed to camp there because there is fire pits, there's a water tank, there's picnic tables. It's almost like a camp. There was no sign saying that you couldn't camp there.
You probably could, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, so when we had Jake on, so Jake did a series on his Munda Biddi ride.
Yeah.
And he pointed out that there's nothing to say you can't camp there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. There was no sign saying that you can't camp here.
Yeah.
There is a water tank. There is picnic tables.
Yeah.
There are fire pits.
Because normally
and
they
fire
say
pits usually
no.
suggest camping.
Yeah.
Because you don't light the fire in the middle of the day to have a picnic.
I've seen people do that at
usually
South
it's something
Ledge.
Well, yeah.
And
But South Ledge is another place where I think you could possibly camp. There's even a toilet there.
Yeah.
But there's nothing saying that you can't camp there.
Yeah.
Bridgetown Jarrah Park has a fire pit there as well. So I think it is possible that they have them. But this is an example where I think there's a bit of a grey area and you could get away with it. And
actually, when we passed through, there was a Toyota Tarago parked there, and they didn't look like they were just looking at the area. It seemed like they'd got all their stuff in the back, so maybe they were looking to just stay there and camp for the night. Yeah. But I mean, you're so close to Northcliffe. Why not just go in?
Well, that's the other thing. Northcliffe is literally just there. But if you couldn't get accommodation for whatever reason, at least you've got a backup.
Yeah.
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 And
but I always stay at the pub, the Northcliffe pub.
See, we stayed at a B&B called Pippinvale, and I highly recommend.
Yeah.
It's just out of town. It's in the old mill section, and Pippa, who runs it, it's a proper bed and breakfast. Like, she'll cook, if you say beforehand, she charges you a bit of extra, and she'll cook you a proper dinner. There's a nice breakfast.
Nice.
Comfy beds to stay in. There's a doggo there. It was a really enjoyable. Like, I was looking forward to staying a proper B&B, and she's a very good host in Northcliffe if you want to stay there.
Oh, that's one to keep in mind, definitely.
But Northcliffe, it's got everything you need. It's got a general store. There's a cafe, a co-op, a pub. It's everything you kind of need out of a trail town.
Yeah, I actually like Northcliffe. It's very tiny. It's cute.
It seems like they don't really care about the outer world. They're just kind of in this little bubble.
Yeah,
and that's great. Like, they don't.
You've stepped back in time in a way.
Yeah, like there's no employment linked to logging. There's no real desire to get people in. I mean, there's a visitor centre there is actually quite extravagant for the size of the town.
The visitor centre's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a nice place to be. It's just in the middle of the forest, and there's plenty of history there as well. And unfortunately was devastated by the 2015 fires, but they've bounced back pretty quick from that.
And it's becoming it's quite a mountain bike town, I believe.
They've got the Carry Cup race.
Yeah. So they're pretty big on the mountain bikes.
And one of the few visitor centres where there was actually a logbook to sign.
Yes. And that was open when I got there.
Yes. And stocks Feed the Hike products as well.
Yes, they do. You will find that along the Munda Biddi on most of the trail towns, virtually all of them, have our products, which is really, really good to see. So, yes, you can stock up on good food along the way.
So that brings us to the end of the section. Where would you guys rate this in terms of the maps for the whole Munda Biddi? Is this up the top? Is it down the bottom?
I'd have to say 3/4 of the way up. Yeah, I really did enjoy this section. It wasn't hard. It was comfortable. It was a comfortable section. And it was beautiful to ride through the Karri forests. How about you, Don?
I think, so for me, I think that particularly Pemberton to Northcliffe is like one of the best sections of the whole trail. Top 5 day by far. I think that this section, and partly why I did this with Alyssa, is that basically from Northcliffe up to Nannup is like the best section to take someone who's never done bikepacking before. I think if you're going to go for like a week or like, you know, mix and match where you want to stop. Say you just want to do Northcliffe to Manjimup, or as we did Pemberton to Nannup. It just, because it's every day you're through a town. Yeah. It just makes it so inviting and so just pleasurable to do. It takes out some of that challenge of having to carry food for 3 or 4 days.
Exactly.
So this is a section that I really recommend for people who are particularly if it's your first time. You're just taking that leap from hiking into mountain biking, into bikepacking. Yeah. This is really a great section to do because of the convenience aspect of it.
Yeah, it does open up the doors to the wider range of people to give it a go.
And the Karri loam as well is just much nicer to ride on than pea gravel.
Oh, pea gravel.
I think a lot of people who start in Perth, maybe might give up because of how awful the pea gravel can be. So this is a good section where people get an idea of what, how nice this sort of forest riding can be. And hopefully, it gets people hooked on doing it if it's just their first section.
Yeah, because there's nothing too major or technically difficult through this section. Yeah. We did talk a little bit about the soft sand, but there wasn't a lot. There was only one small section. Yeah. So there is nothing really hard through there. The hills weren't huge. Going up to the big to the big tree, that was pushing it. That was a bit hard. But otherwise, no. I think it's a very doable section for most people, for most abilities.
And where would you put it, Mark? I guess, given that you've just done it very recently.
Yeah, I can talk about these things. Now, I would put it kind of in the middle to above average. Yeah. So certainly Pemberton to Northcliffe lifts this quite a way up. But yeah, I mean, if you're riding south to north or north to south, this is the middle section. So by the time you get here, your trail fitness should be quite high and it shouldn't present too much of a problem. So it's just more about enjoying what's available. For me, we didn't get the best weather through here and the logging kind of annoyed me quite a bit. But apart from that, there's a good variety to enjoy. I mean, after doing Pemberton Northcliffe last year with you, I thought, wouldn't it be great if every town was linked this way? And I think this could form the blueprint for that.
Yeah, I know that the Manjimup wanted to do a bit of work with the rail trail, because basically it's a rail trail that goes all the way, a railway line that goes all the way from Bridgetown through to Northcliffe.
Oh, that would be nice.
But it's still officially a railway line, even though there's trees growing through the middle of it. And the middle of Manjimup, which is the linear park, has been pulled out. So, basically I think there's a lot of room to grow. And I think, how amazing would it be if they could, yes, it is basically going Manjimup to Pemberton, but how great would it be if there was a loop so you could take the rail trail to Pemberton, do the loop back to Manjimup, and you'd have this circular path. And as you say, if you see this as the blueprint of how you can go town to town, using rail corridors and things like that to link it up and create more of a choose your own adventure through the Southwest.
Yeah, I think, hopefully I think the blueprint, like the strategy is 2050, and if you could have almost every town in the Southwest linked by some kind of corridor or gravel path or whatever, like they're doing with the Wandani track, it would just be amazing for people to be like, oh, well, I've got 4 days, I want to get from here to here, have transport services, or you drive your cars to either end. It makes it so much easier to enjoy a Southwest trip, and especially if you've got the bike, you can just repeat that over and over rather than do sections of the Munda Biddi 2 or 3 times. It just opens up the possibilities.
Did you say 2050?
Yeah,
that's pretty sad. Bike packing days, I think most of my days will be gone by then.
I'll be retirement age. This is what I'll be looking at. I have so much time.
Yeah, I think I probably would have dearly departed this planet by then, sadly.
No.
I think a lot of this will come up before then.
I hope so.
I think it's just a matter of funding, and this is just because they've got a lot there in the 2050 plan that is probably, some of it's quite difficult, some of it's low-hanging fruit. Some of the low-hanging fruit I think we will see sooner than that, and I really hope it does, but it just really requires political will and enough people who actually want to do it, to push the issue. So hopefully we see something.
Yeah.
And I know this has been quite a long pod, but something we have done with our guests is to get them to explain their bikepacking setup.
Okay.
And I noticed watching your YouTube videos, because the camera is set up at the front, it shows your handlebar setup, and I just noticed there's one very, very tiny bag. So where did all of the rest of your gear go? Because you're not a traditionally light packer when you're a hiker, and I imagine that carries over to bike packing. So where did all your gear go?
Yeah, I had saddlebags at the back that I picked up from Marketplace for $50. They weren't great. It wasn't fantastic. They broke about 2 days before I finished. The zipper broke, so I sort of had to come up with a way to keep it all together. I carried exactly what I could carry when I was hiking, so it wasn't too bad. But I did carry extra water, mainly because it was very, very hot. It was extremely hot, so I was going through the water. So that was my setup.
I found that the killer as well is like the harder days became harder because you then had to carry more water.
Yes.
Like some of the longer days, you're like, well, there's lots of hills here. You want it to be nice and easy, but then you're like, well, I have to carry an extra 2 liters of water. That makes it
when I was trying to work out where to put the water, I found that very difficult because I knew having all that water in the saddlebags was really bogging down the back of the bike. So I split the two, and I was carrying a small backpack. So I put half the water in the saddlebag on the top of the frame and the other half in my backpack. So it would just even it out a little bit.
Yeah. And the bike that you chose to use?
Okay, the bike that I chose to use was actually my husband's bike. He hadn't been riding it, and I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to take it and get it set up ready. I put fatter tyres on it so I could get through the softer sand. I didn't do a whole lot to it, to tell you the truth. I went in this very blind, but it was so much fun. I enjoyed it, yeah.
Excellent. And I believe you have a special offer for those that are still listening.
So all of you who are still listening, I'd like to say thank you for sticking with us through this very long podcast. And I have a special offer. Feed the Hike are offering for the whole month of October 10%. So that's 10% off whatever you buy from our website, which is feedthehike.com. So we have 6 meals now and 8 soups to choose from. And, of course, we've got the books as well. So store-wide, 10%. All you have to do is read the description below that Don will put there, and it'll give you the code to use.
So, yeah, thank you very much, Michelle. That's much appreciated. I know I enjoyed quite a few soups and meals along the way when I was at the campsites, and they're definitely hit the spot after a long day of cycling.
Yes, I have to say I fueled myself the whole way we Feed the Hike, and that's what got me through. It was.
I haven't had any of your food on the trail, but I have had it at home, and it's really like I really like the minestrone soup. I thought that was like a really good, just a good quality soup, because I think some of the things that people would look at it goes like, oh, what's the difference between this and a cup of soup? And it is a huge
There's
difference.
a huge difference. So there you are having real food.
Yeah.
And it's packed with vegetables. There is nothing hidden in there. It's real food.
Yeah.
I don't know if you boys have tried our last 2 dishes that we've had out, the chili beans or the vegan butter chicken. Highly recommend that. Absolutely amazing.
I'll get onto that.
So you've got to get onto that. Yeah.
I've had the vegan butter chicken and very yum.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Michelle, for coming in. And
my pleasure. Thanks for having me again, guys. I really enjoyed this.
That was our very, very, very long Manjimup to Northcliffe section, but we are back, and hopefully we'll be having regular episodes from now on.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode or any other episode of Real Trail Talk, then please rate us on whatever platform you're currently listening to us on. Ratings really help us to reach an audience, especially those who are looking to learn about the outdoors in Western Australia and Australia in general. If you had any questions or suggestions for future episodes, you can email us at realtrailtalk@gmail.com or contact us through our social media channels. Thanks again, and stay tuned for our next episode.